Hello, and welcome to Behind the Ballet. I'm Elizabeth Kaye, and it is a privilege to tell you about WOOLF WORKS, a ballet that is truly an event, for it marks the first time American Ballet Theatre is presenting a full-length work choreographed by the man who has been called the high priest of contemporary art, Wayne McGregor. WOOLF WORKS is a journey, an experience, a foray into the power of memory, emotion, longing, loving, letting go. Above all, it is a portrayal of a woman's life, a woman's soul. It comes to us from three dazzling innovators, the choreographer Wayne McGregor, the composer Max Richter, and the author Virginia Woolf, who created their art in two different centuries. And of course, it's a ballet founded in the works of Virginia Woolf, whose life was rich in enticing contradictions. Her marriage to Leonard Woolf was steeped in abiding love and constancy, yet her love affair with the female author, Vita Sackville-West, has made her a revered gay icon, a status enhanced by the book their love inspired, Orlando, which is depicted in this ballet and regarded by many as the first trans novel. Here's another contradiction. Virginia Woolf was profoundly attuned to every aspect of life, passion and despair, intellect and the wonders of nature, all manner of sounds and sights, yet she chose to end her own life at the age of 59. Virginia Woolf was born in 1882 into a prominent London literary family, headed by her father, the writer and critic, Sir Leslie Stephen. She was raised in a family of 8 children. The 4 eldest were her half-brothers and her sister from her mother's previous marriage. Then came Virginia, 2 brothers, and a sister, Vanessa, with whom she shared parentage. Their privileged upbringing included summers by the sea that Virginia described as blissful, in a house that looked out at a lighthouse that would feature in her works. But their home life in London was shadowed by Victorian-era gloom, and the fact that Virginia and Vanessa were denied the formal education their brothers enjoyed. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the sisters determined early on that Vanessa would become a painter and Virginia would be a writer. Her mother's death when Virginia was 13 occasioned the first of several mental breakdowns throughout her life, and left her confined to bed and given barbiturates to allay the suicidal impulses that would ultimately overtake her. Then came the sudden death of her older half-sister, who had become a mother figure for her, and finally there was the sexual abuse perpetrated by 2 of her half-brothers, which rendered her sexually frail and vulnerable. In 1904, Virginia and Vanessa moved to Bloomsbury, a neighborhood of lovely townhouses where their home became the original meeting place of the Bloomsbury Group, that famous and infamous circle of artists, writers, and intellectuals who rebelled against the restraints of the Victorian age and embraced a culture whose touchstones were sexual equality, freedom, and intellectual debate. The Bloomsbury Group produced some of the most significant works of English modernism, among them Woolf's seminal novel, Mrs. Dalloway, published in 1925. In this mesmerizing book, one of 3 works upon which WOOLF WORKS is based, Woolf employed a stream of consciousness narrative that established her as a literary trailblazer. Now, the choreographer and composer who've brought Woolf's books to vivid life on the stage are trailblazers too, and I'd like to tell you a bit about them. Wayne McGregor is one of the world's most celebrated and enthralling contemporary choreographers. As an innovator and singularly cerebral artist, his work has redefined prevailing beliefs about what dance requires and what it can achieve. McGregor was inspired to make a life in dance by the disco moves of John Travolta in Grease and Saturday Night Fever. "What I've always loved about Travolta," he recently said, "is his effortlessness. I think that's what makes a great dancer, effortlessness and spontaneity." He started attending dance classes when he was 7. His teacher taught Latin and ballroom dancing and had a poster of Travolta on her wall. She encouraged him to create his own dances, and by age 12, he was leading disco classes and being paid to do so. He was 22 when he arrived in London, having secured at university a first-class honors degree in dance. Had you seen him perform his own works in those days, you might not have suspected he was destined for balletic significance. Some perceived him as an intriguing one-off, whose startlingly loose movements, speed of attack, and choreographic flair singled him out early on as a new dance voice to watch. Now clearly he had talent, but could there ever be a place in the rarefied world of ballet for a man given to such outlandish creativity and dedicated to a movement style founded in what one critic describes as his fascination with extreme physicality and hyper-articulation? In fact, his uniqueness has always been a major asset, for it was that, coupled with his questing mind and spirit, that prompted him to create a place of his own where he could explore his distinctive ideas and original imagination. In 1992, he founded a company he called Random Dance, later to be renamed Company Wayne McGregor. Then, in 2006, the curtain at the Royal Opera House rose on McGregor's ballet Chroma, which he created on dancers of the Royal Ballet. Performing a ballet as radical as Chroma on such an august stage was potentially the dance equivalent of setting wild horses loose amidst the antiquities in the British Museum. But McGregor's choreography was a revelation, with its razor-sharp angles and sensuous curves, its ecstatic bursts of edgy syncopation that give way to spiraling, convulsive movement. As a result, he became the first contemporary choreographer to be appointed to the lofty, coveted post of the Royal Ballet's resident choreographer, a post he's held for the past 17 years. He's only the third artist to assume that role, previously held by two giants of the ballet world, Sir Frederick Ashton and Sir Kenneth Macmillan. WOOLF WORKS is the fifth work he's commissioned from Max Richter, a classically trained composer whose concert hall performances, solo albums, and music for film, television, theater, and ballet established him as a leading figure in the contemporary music scene. Richter's music veers from minimalistic to hauntingly melodically beautiful to stunningly rich as he conveys the multitudinous complexities of emotion. For McGregor, working with a living composer is particularly fulfilling, for it provides, as he puts it, a conversation and what Richter calls a voyage of discovery. On this ballet, they worked in similar fashion, inspired by Woolf's words, and sharing a willingness to generate ideas without knowing precisely where they would lead. When creating the ballet, McGregor also worked closely with his brilliantly gifted dramaturge, Uzma Hamid. Now you may wonder what exactly a dramaturge does, and the answer is that she or he studies the source material, in this case the writings and life of Virginia Woolf. Having done that, Hamid employed her thoughtful, discerning expertise to provide essential knowledge and research, and to collaborate on interpretation with the creative team and with the dancers. The books of Virginia Woolf are all about feeling. Reading them is akin to being swept up by a gentle gust of wind that envelops you as it takes you along, moment by moment, phrase by phrase. For McGregor, their poetry was analogous to dance, and he was enthralled by the rhythmic nature of Woolf's prose and her constantly unfolding images, which struck him, he says, as acoustic and visual and kinesthetic, all colliding at different times. As he notes, Woolf loved music and dance, and sought to write as if she was composing music or choreographing a dance. And he says, I just thought it would be wonderful to try to translate those novels into something for the stage. One of the ballerinas he chose for the role of Virginia Woolf was the divine Alessandra Ferri, who, as I'm sure you recall, was a cherished ABT ballerina who danced with the company for more than 2 decades. When they began working together, McGregor told her what he needed from her. I need the soul of Virginia Woolf, he said. She found that soul, and fortunately for us, Ferri will dance 2 performances of WOOLF WORKS in ABT's summer season. The ballet opens with Woolf's handwritten words floating before our eyes, words we hear spoken by her through the sole existing recording of her voice. The first words we see have a line running through them, their words crossed out. But this is what authors do. They put down words and then discard them as they seek words that will be more precise, more evocative. Woolf's words recede, then morph into a projected image of Woolf herself. We then see the dancer portraying Virginia, a lone figure, wishful, mournful, vulnerable, set against a montage of gray and grainy images of London. WOOLF WORKS takes us into a dream work, that amorphous, ever-evolving land where what is and what was and what could be all magically converge. It begins with the act titled, I Now, I Then, based on Mrs. Dalloway. When we first see Virginia, she is contemplating writing the book. When she removes her coat, she becomes the fictional Clarissa Dalloway, a woman ruminating on her past, as in the opening of the novel. Clarissa dances with Richard, the husband who supports her, coddles her, calms her. Then, in flashback, we see Clarissa's young self, accompanied by Peter, her first boyfriend, and Sally, her first love. Sally and Clarissa are playful, moving in perfect unison until they meld together in a kiss that seems a harbinger of Virginia's love affair with Vita Sackville-West. Clarissa dances with Septimus, a veteran of the First World War, for whom the searing scars of battle are indelible. He is haunted by the ghost of his dead friend, who perished just before that brutal war finally ended. When he and Clarissa lie down together, you sense two people beyond hope of rescue, defeated by their demons and the unfeeling world, yet somehow bonded in that defeat. Ultimately, Septimus commits suicide, and learning this, Clarissa contemplates suicide herself. But in the final dance, she makes peace with the primary people in her life, Sally, Richard, Peter, and with herself. When we see a projection of Woolf's Garden, Clarissa becomes Virginia again, having completed the book. One thing the dramaturge Uzma Hamid stressed to me is that she and McGregor do not expect you to come to this ballet knowing Woolf's work, and that they hope you'll interpret what you see in your own way. For instance, I was struck by the repeated gestures McGregor gives Clarissa, arms held wide, signifying surrender perhaps, or evoking a crucifixion. Another gesture suggests a breaststroke that left me wondering if she is seeking to push away things that bedevil her, or is it a fugitive glimpse of Virginia, anticipating the day when she will fill her pockets with stones and brown. Now maybe that's intended, maybe not. What is certain is that each of us can view WOOLF WORKS through our own eyes and heart. The next act, titled Becoming, is based on Woolf's novel Orlando, which she wrote for her lover Vita Sackville-West, and which some regard as the longest love letter ever written. Orlando reveals Virginia's fascination with the fluidity of gender as her protagonist moves through time, as a man in the 16th century, as a woman in the 18th century, and achieving in the 20th century the fluidity of androgyny. The choreography is vintage McGregor, as the dancers' fevered movements become sinuous and mesmeric, and their arching, swooping, turning bodies echo the tense, expectant music that slows when two dancers engage in a ravishingly serpentine pas de deux that speaks to one of McGregor's stated goals, which is to present, as he says, bodies misbehaving beautifully. Finally, dancers in unisex leotards move exultingly to triumphant music, suggesting that the ultimate freedom is the freedom to be oneself. Last comes the act titled Tuesday, derived from Woolf's book The Waves, written 10 years before she ended her life. As her most poetic, lyrical work, it captures the thoughts and desires of 6 people from childhood to old age, and provides, as Woolf often does, a meditation on time. When Tuesday begins, we see a projection of water, water in which Virginia will die. Then we hear the voice of the actor Gillian Anderson as she reads the suicide note Virginia wrote her husband Leonard. It begins, "I feel certain I am going mad again." Virginia and Leonard join in an achingly tender pas de deux, drenched in the immensity of their sorrow, their love, their unity. Soon dancers fill the stage with Virginia at their center. These dancers represent the water, and the series of simple gestures they engage in are heart-rendingly elegiac, for this is dance and life reduced to their absolute essence. Finally, as consciousness begins to leave her, Virginia is laid down to eternal rest. When I think about Virginia Woolf, what compels me is not only her literary brilliance, but her brilliant humanity, evidenced so powerfully in her suicide note to Leonard. It reads, "You have been in every way all that anyone could be. I don't think two people could have been happier than we have been." When you see WOOLF WORKS, I believe you will find it to be a revelation, a marvel, and an artistic triumph. Thank you for being here and joining me for Behind the Ballet.